Have you ever purchased an RDA, something like an iGo-L, an iGo-W, hell, maybe even something more high-end, to find that the air hole is way too damn small for your liking? Been there, done that. You find yourself just frustrated. All you want to do is build coils, blow clouds, experience the kick-ass flavor, but no! The air hole is just too small. You're madder than a grizzly bear in a phone booth jacking off with a handful of sand spurs. Ain't good. See that puppy right there? That's a SuperCarb AFC Drip Tip, straight from Ninja Mods. AFC, airflow control, meaning you can adjust the airflow on your drip tip. So I've been using these things for the past 2 weeks. There's definitely some ups, but there's also definitely some downs. First of all, the drip tips are just sick as tits. Super comfortable, super wide, easy to drip. From what I saw, you have two options. You have either the Delrin, the black, you have the Delrin, which is white on the outside, black on the inside, or you have the foggy acrylic. So back to the airflow control. You've got two holes on each side. The AFC tip is made up of two parts, and I'll show you guys in a close-up. You've got an outer part, and you've got an inner part. The two holes punched are on the inner part, and you adjust the outer part to the inner part. Am I losing you? You've got a larger hole on one side, which is measured to around 2.1, 2.2 millimeters, give or take, and then you've got a smaller hole on the opposite side that measures around 1 millimeter. So that long slot is on the outside piece, and that hole is on the inner piece. And you adjust the airflow by turning this outer piece. So right now we've got the larger air hole exposed. Twist that outer piece. You can cover up half the hole, you can cover up a quarter of the hole, you can cover up 3/4 of the hole, but you can tune it the way you like it. Okay, so right now I've got about half of that hole covered up. Now on the other side of the drip tip, you have a smaller hole, just like I mentioned, around 1 millimeter. That's a smaller hole right there. And you do the same thing. You can adjust that long slot on the outside, cover up some of that hole, leave it open. I find in the smaller air hole mode, I just tend to leave it wide open. It's so small, like I said, it's 1 millimeter. But you can adjust it. That's the beauty of it. So I have the acrylic tip on this Zenith, and I've got the Zenith adjusted in single coil mode. So one side is completely blocked off, and as you can see, a slither of that air hole is showing, which is equivalent to about a 0.9 or 1 millimeter air hole. Okay, I've got that covering about half that hole, the large hole. I've got it running at 24.5 watts with a 1.3 ohm build. And it works good. It doesn't work great, and I'll tell you why. And these are from my experiences. To me, this device, this AFC drip tip, is for builds that are 0.5 or lower, okay? So like a 0.5, 0.25, maybe even lower. For example, I've got this Patriot, stock dual air holes, okay? I believe stock is 1.5 millimeter, which is tight to a lot of people out there. A lot of the guys that want to chuck the clouds, definitely tight. I've got the black Delrin AFC drip tip. I've got half of the large hole exposed on this drip tip. The build in here is a 0.4, okay, around a 0.45. Oh yeah, opens her right up, and I find that the reason why it's so effective with a 0.5 ohm build or lower with this drip tip is because with more heat that those builds bring also brings more flavor. So when you open up that air draw on that drip tip, you're gonna lose some of the flavor. But because of so much heat that those builds, those low ohm builds are providing, you're still gonna get good flavor. Now, flavor does diminish. So this drip tip is mainly for those vapors out there that have something like an iGo-L or an iGo-W. They haven't drilled out the holes. They don't have a drill to drill out the holes. They need to open up their airflow to get that vapor production, and they want to build really low ohm builds. That is what this device is for. Those type of vapors. But if you're the type of vapor who's familiar with drilling out holes, you've got a drill, this isn't your first rodeo, then you're not going to need the airflow control from this drip tip. I will tell you though, most of the time I don't use the airflow control for this drip tip. I don't need to because I really don't prefer building anything lower than 0.5, 0.6 ohms. Okay, usually I'm doing builds 1.1 to 1.8 ohms. So I don't need that airflow control. This 0.45 build was just for you guys in this video, and I wanted to show you how much vapor you can get off this. But the flavor production isn't where I'd like it to be. Also, I was really excited about trying these drip tips on tanks like K-Fun's, K-Fun Lights, the Russian 91, the Pro Tank, those tanks that have a tighter draw, especially the K-Fun Light and something like the Pro Tank that doesn't have the adjustable airflow. I was excited about using this device and it just didn't work for me. I mean, flavor, it just felt weird. It felt weird having one air hole open on the drip tip and then having, you know, an air hole down at the 510 connection, or a small air hole around the ring like on the K-Fun Light. It felt weird. I didn't get the flavor. The flavor was muted. I couldn't gauge what type of vape I was getting, whether I was going to get a burnt hit or not because of that airflow on the drip tip. To me, it was just a total fail on all the tank systems, okay? But that's my experience. But again, it works well on RDAs that have the stock air holes, like a lot of the China-made RDAs, the IGO-Ls, the IGO-Ws, the IGO-Fs, where those stock air holes are like 1 millimeter, 1.1 millimeter, even 0.9 millimeter. You can pop this bad boy on there, crank the air hole open, and do low ohm builds. Just make sure you're using a reliable battery that's safe, like the VTC4, the Sony VTC4. But yeah, other than that, the airflow control, to me, I don't ever use it. Overall, the way these things are built, I know they're made in the USA. That's a plus. I mean, this thing is bored out. Wide, wide, wide. Widest drip tip I've used to date, even wider than the Chunk from Sigtex. I like plastic drip tips. A big pro to this, there have been numerous times where I'm vaping on this thing. I don't even notice the Addy getting hot because of this Delrin drip tip. It rejects the heat. The comfort, the feel, hell, I'd be happy if it didn't have the airflow control. It comes in two parts. You've got this part right here, okay? And this is the inside. It's made up of 3 O-rings, 2 O-rings at the top for the sleeve that goes over top, and then you've got 2 O-rings down at the bottom. You've got your large air hole on one side, the 2 millimeter to 2.2 millimeter, and then on the other side, you've got your small air hole, the 1 millimeter. So how this works is the sleeve goes over top the inside portion of this device, pops down, and then you twist it to your adjustable airflow that you like. Line it up with that air hole, or half the air hole, or 1/4 the air hole, and that's how that sucker works. Same thing goes to the other side. You've got that small air hole. Like I said, I like to keep it wide open. But if I'm going to use this thing in airflow control mode, I'm going to use the larger air hole. And usually I like to cover it up about halfway. So my conclusion on the SuperCarb AFC Drip Tip from Ninja Mods. For someone who's building coils above 0.5 ohms, above 1 ohm, the airflow control is pretty useless. But the way this drip tip is, the quality, the craftsmanship, I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. It's American made, super comfortable. I actually like the black Delrin better because it blocks the heat more than this acrylic. But I like the acrylic one because it's see-through, and I like that. I don't know, it's just something I like. Look at that wide bore, look at that wide hole. That is huge. Widest that I've dealt with by far. This bore, I just measured it, is about 8.5 millimeters in width. That's huge. Like I said, I like to build builds above 1 ohm. I've been thoroughly enjoying these tips. These tips are all I've been using, and I don't even use the adjustable airflow control. The only time I use it is if I'm building like a 0.5 ohm dual super nano coil. And it works a treat. With the adjustable airflow, I like to adjust it to where, you know, about half or 3/4 that large air hole on the outside of the drip tip is covered or open, and it's sick as tits. This is Rip Trippers, and remember, smoking is dead, vaping is the future, and the future is now.